Little Miss Movies podcast, where two movie-obsessed parents make their 10-year-old watch movies she'd never watch otherwise. This is episode number 18, The Philadelphia Story. Just a quick show note. We had a few audio problems, so our apologies for the little bit of crackle that you might hear on some of our voices.
Welcome back to the Little Miss Movies podcast. I'm Gable. I'm 10. I'm 10 and 3/4. I'm in 5th grade. I like Legend of Zelda, Harry Potter, Animal Crossing, reading and writing, Minecraft, and Girl Scouts, and cello and piano.
Anything else?
I think that's everything.
You think you covered it all?
I think. Oh yeah, and Jaws.
Oh my gosh, how could we forget Jaws? That's right.
I think that's everything this time. Oh, The Simpsons.
And The Simpsons. How could we forget The
Simpsons? How could I forget The Simpsons?
I don't know. You watch it every day. Hello, I'm Christina. I am the mother of Little Miss Movies.
Me. I'm Little Miss Movies.
That's you. And
You did leave that part out.
That's your Little Miss Movies. We did leave something out. I'm a writer. I have a biography on Jane Russell coming out in, we're less than 2 months now. I also own...
Which, if you're listening to this later, that would mean comes out in June.
It comes out in June, mid-June. June 15th.
Yeah, so around my birthday.
Coming out.
A few days after my birthday.
A few days after your birthday. I am also the owner of a small terrier who you might hear.
Yeah.
Tap dancing
around the house and drinking water.
And the big Labrador doggy who's over there in his doggy shirt.
Exactly.
That we bought for him.
His anxiety calming doggy shirt that you keep hoping for.
Yes.
Anything just to calm him down. I'm Josh. I'm a TV writer. I do a little bit of other stuff too.
You play Zelda with me.
I do play Zelda with her. I do that. If there was a way to make it for a living, I would probably do that because that sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Much easier.
I want to do that.
It seems much easier than working for a living. I like that. And I am the father of Little Miss Movies. And mostly my fault that we've been behind a few weeks. So I take full responsibility.
You're busy with COVID vaccines from
did.
you.
I got the COVID vaccine that really knocked me on my butt. And then
my school schedule changed last week.
Right? We had school went back, sort of, but we didn't go back. But school went back. Everything was complicated. Life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you folks know this. The life is complicated right now.
Oh, I think they know.
Do they?
I think.
Do they?
I think everybody's pretty much in the same boat. But I'm hoping we can get back on track. I mean, now that I'm going to be going back to my job at the library very soon. But
we do sit by the door all day crying like the dogs when you're gone.
Do you?
So that does fill up the time.
Yeah. So that's why it would be nice to have, continue with our little family project.
There's a lot of that.
No, still have that from the dogs.
Yeah. So did we watch a movie at some point that we're going to talk about?
I mean, we technically watched 3 movies since we last recorded.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we watched more than 3 movies.
I think we watched more than 3. We have watched. I just want to segue briefly to the thing that has brought me much joy lately. We have started watching a lot of Columbo.
We have started watching.
No, mainly Mommy and Daddy.
You've watched a little bit.
I've watched like 1 episode.
I don't know. I mean, Columbo's something I obviously knew existed. I never watched it when it was on. I was a little bit too young. I think I wasn't born when it first started.
It was in the 60s. So yes, you were not born.
Yeah, you were not born.
But it was on throughout the 70s,
60s,
right?
70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
And I think the last one is like 83 or 84.
Yeah, I don't remember actually watching it, though. Although I was talking to my mom about it, and she did. It is delightful. Seek it out. It is amazing. Lots of old movie stars.
And applicable to this, there's, tons and tons of old movie stars. And for genre nerds, Patrick McGoohan directed a bunch of episodes and is in an episode. So the prisoner himself. It's very confusing.
And Steven Spielberg directed.
What airs is the first proper episode after the 2 movies.
Amazing. And there's tons of just Los Angeles footage. They filmed a lot of it all around the city and in the valley. So,
and it's on Peacock.
On Peacock.
It technically ran until 2003 because there were movie after movie after movie.
Wow.
And they just became less regular.
So we just have a lot of Columbo to watch.
We do. It just goes on and on.
I have more Simpsons
and every
to watch.
And every one ends this pretty much, begins the same way and ends the same way. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's like
matter.
the exact same thing over and over
It
again with
doesn't
different
matter.
scenarios.
It doesn't matter.
Really, all you need to do is watch the beginning of it and skip to the end, and you're done.
No, because the middle is just such a entertaining journey.
It's true.
With Lieutenant Columbo. It is amazing.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I still need to watch like a season of Simpsons.
Yeah,
I need to watch the new season.
you do. Okay, so what movie are we talking about tonight, Gable?
We are talking about Philadelphia Story.
Talking about Philadelphia Story, which is, I think, a movie we've been teasing, I think, since the very beginning. It was, I think, one of the initial 3 movies that we had asked you what you wanted to watch.
No, it was the second episode. Was one of the initial 3 movies.
That was right.
It was
She gets that from you, hon. She just can't. She has to really make sure the
it was,
facts are
no,
100%
the
correct.
options were Citizen Kane.
Can't allow
To
for the
source it.
for the fun of
Footnotes.
storytelling.
Yeah.
It was Citizen Kane, Sunset Boulevard, or Philadelphia Story.
Okay, and we did Citizen Kane, and then we moved on to Sunset Boulevard.
Because it was showing at the drive-in.
Yeah, because the Hollywood Legion Drive-In showed it. So now we finally did Philadelphia Story. So Gable, why don't you lead us off and tell us what was the movie about?
Oh, I was going to ask you to do that.
You're gonna ask? No, I'm gonna ask you to do that.
Oh.
I'm gonna ask
Oh.
wait, how your 10-year-old brain processed what was going on in this movie.
It's about Katharine Hepburn, not as herself, but as a character. But
Tracy Lord.
yeah,
hmm
Not to be confused with Tracy Lords.
No.
The,
Which we are not going to get into.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes.
I know what it is. I just can't explain it.
Yes, you can.
is it an action movie?
No,
What kind of movie is it?
Is it a horror movie?
no. It's like a normal movie.
I don't know what that says about the genres of my persuasion.
Yeah.
But
If I had a personality in Animal Crossing, I feel like it'd be a normal one, which is good. Doesn't make any sense.
is it about perhaps a love triangle?
Yeah.
And what happens in this love triangle?
Stuff.
It really
the
stuck.
movie happens.
I think, to be fair, the movie is like it's of the genre and time of like the topsy-turvy drawing room comedy style. So it is a lot of like, now it's about this, and now we're doing this, and now we're about that, and now we're in love, and now they're in
Yeah.
love, and then we're all in love, and then maybe we're in love, but they're
Plus,
in
we've
love.
watched like 3 other movies since then, so
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
That's a
was
lot.
based on a play, so it's super dialogue heavy and
A lot of doors opening and
a
closing.
lot of doors opening.
Why?
Yeah, like a lot of fairly static sets. Okay, but
It's
it is.
about Katharine Hepburn and her younger sister.
It's not really about
Kind
Katharine
of.
Hepburn and her. I mean, their younger sister's there, so she's about to get married to kind of a boring dude, and the wedding plans are kind of thrown on their ear when her ex-husband, played by the magnificent Cary Grant, shows up with a reporter, played by Jimmy Stewart, and a photographer, played by Ruth Hussey, who are going to cover the wedding for a scandal sheet, or for like a gossipy
Yeah.
magazine. And in order to prevent the gossipy magazine from running a story about Katharine Hepburn's father. And then hilarity ensues.
Did hilarity ensue, Gable?
What does that mean?
When the story was in active mode, did you find it to be humorous?
Did you follow what was going on in this movie?
Yeah. We just watched the other movies. But yeah, I did.
You did? Okay. Do you have thoughts on this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we hear your thoughts on this movie?
Hold on. Alright. It was good. And Katharine Hepburn did a really good job as her part. I thought she was a good actor.
She was nominated for an Academy Award.
Cool.
Yes. She didn't win, but she was nominated.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have written down for that part.
What do you think about her performance, especially because we watched her in African Queen, where she's playing a very, 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 different character.
role. Yeah,
right?
but then she does like a great job in both of them, even though they're on like totally different They're totally different.
There is that sort of, the thing about Katharine Hepburn is that she has that very like upper crust unflappableness to her that's in both movies. That
absolutely.
Literally her brother, the village gets torched, her brother dies, and she's on the run for her life, an African queen, and she's still very prim and proper. Like she's just nothing changes her, nothing makes her give up on her ways, which is just sort of a trait of hers in virtually every movie.
I think it was a trait of hers just
as a person
in life. Yeah. I think it's very much her. I think I think a lot of her personality comes into her roles. And
I think that was a turnoff to audiences back in the day, right? Like she wasn't considered a particularly big star.
She was, but for whatever reason, by the time this movie was made, this is often talked about, she was considered box office poison, which I think is one of the like industry magazines, for the distributors, had labeled her box office poison, meaning that her movies just were not making money at that time. And so that's why she went back east to New York and was doing stage plays, and this was one of them. And but this, this role suited her personality so well that it completely revived her film career.
Yeah, it was written for her.
It was written for her, absolutely. And what?
I'm looking at you. I'm rubbing my eyes.
So this is the second Katharine Hepburn movie you've seen, Gable? I think so. I think so. I don't think we watched it.
I feel like we watched another one where I was like, is she related to Audrey Hepburn?
I don't remember if we watched another one or not, but you really like her, don't you? She was Jane Russell.
She was Jane Russell?
She was Jane Russell's favorite actress. Jane Russell, actually, when Jane Russell was a teenager, wrote her a fan letter.
Cool.
Did not get a response, but wrote her a fan letter.
My Kate Hepburn story, I totally forgot about.
Oh, is this the yurt story?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
My one of my best friends was living in Lyme, Connecticut, which you might recognize.
Lyme, Connecticut?
Yeah, but that's where Lyme disease comes from.
That's why it's named Lyme disease.
Yeah, because it's from the town of Lyme. It's where the infected ticks started from.
There's a place called Lyme.
Yeah. Actually, now they live in Old Lyme. It's very strange.
It's very Simpsons.
It is very.
It is very Simpsons.
God forbid you have to live in old Lyme. It's terrible. No sewage lines. But when his parents, had, I think it was his older sibling, one of his older siblings, and they were out shopping, and they discovered Katharine Hepburn at like the little general store in this like super rural town. And apparently she looked at the baby, and she just looked at this, his older sister, and went, "My God, that's a beautiful baby."
Wait, what?
And that's the stuff. Like, that is just, it's a shared story that he's really clung on to, is the time that Katharine Hepburn saw one of his siblings as a baby and was just moved to shout at the baby how beautiful the baby was. That's it. My entirety.
That's it. I thought there was something with a yurt. No?
No, I think they were living in a yurt.
They were living in a yurt.
What is a yurt?
But didn't she make a comment about the yurt?
Oh, well, she did say it was a lovely yurt. She left a note eventually. She was out foraging for some reason in the woods, and they came home. They came home, and I totally forgot about that. They were pinned to the front door / flap of the yurt.
What is a yurt?
A yurt is like a teepee, but with a flat top, and
cool.
Like they're big and kind of permanent.
Okay.
So like pinned to the front door was a note that said, "This is a beautiful yurt, K. Hepburn."
That is amazing.
Amazing. She just loved that yurt.
And she lived a lot. I don't know if she
in Old Lyme.
Yep.
In Old Lyme. I don't know if she lived to be 100. I think close. And she, I read somewhere online that she lived to receive flowers for her birthday. So I either sent her flowers or thought about it. I don't remember at this point because that was quite a while ago. But I think that's something for you, Gable. It's kind of sad. Like, growing up, like these old movie stars were still around, and they would pop up on television shows like Columbo or Love Boat, or they would
Be on game shows.
To be on game shows, or you would have like these variety shows. So I grew up like seeing these movie stars, and they just aren't really around right now.
But even the talk shows now, like even because there was always that like when Carson was still on, you'd always have his friends who were old movie stars would just show up, and you would have Cary Grant show up, or you would have Jimmy Stewart would show up, and they would just be there and just talking for 20 minutes, and then they wander off.
Yeah.
And also Rodney Dangerfield, who would just come and do a routine while Johnny Carson pretended to want to talk to him and instead just sat there laughing his ass off. It's delightful.
So I think it's kind of, in a way, I think it's kind of sad that these people are so much more real to me because they were still around. I think you have Cora Sue Collins, child film star of the 1930s.
Who loves you.
Who absolutely loves you. I got to see Cora Sue yesterday, and she was very disappointed when the door opened and you weren't there. So, moving on. What did you have other comments about the Philadelphia story?
No, they're all questions.
They're all
ask questions.
Okay.
What were some of the
questions?
Okay. Where did they film the movie?
Oh, they would have filmed it at MGM. Yeah.
Okay.
It would have been filmed.
Okay. I thought that they actually went somewhere.
No, that's Culver City. Was it Culver back then? Was it called Culver?
What? The lot? No, it was the MGM lot.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, in MGM, which is the one that has the lion at the beginning, was like the grandest studio, more stars than in the heavens, and that's where like Clark Gable was under contract, and Joan Crawford, and Jean Harlow, and Greta Garbo, and Norma Shearer. And so they had in Culver City was where the studio was, and they did have a huge backlot, which is no longer there. That was eventually developed, but they would have built everything there.
So this is a two-part question. And this is not your first time seeing it for either of you, right?
No, it is not.
When you first saw it, what did you think of it? The movie.
Back when I first saw it, I really liked it. I think this time around, I think other than like Ruth Hussey, who I adore her character. I think she's just like very practical.
Who is Ruth Hussey?
She's the photographer.
Oh, okay.
Who's dating Jimmy Stewart's character. I think I don't know. I think the characters in many ways are very unlikable in this movie, which I don't remember thinking that quite so much. But I thought they were all a little bit grating this time around. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's I like it more now as an adult than I did. Like I saw it when I was in college probably. And like it would not be a preferred genre. Like the wacky comedy romance movie is not in my preferred genres. And it's certainly one of the best of that genre. Like I think it's fantastically done. But it takes a lot for me to be invested in it. And I think the thing for me about the movie that sort of doesn't work and is like problematic. Like His Gal Friday has the same problem. They all kind of have the same problem.
What?
Well, no, it's that because everybody is so sort of sarcastic and so sort of like so quick-witted, they lose heart. So when you get to the point in this movie when you finally get to, and here's what we're going to do, the sort of solution to the movie, you should feel like an emotional moment of like reward of, oh great, now the characters are all together where they're supposed to be, and isn't it great? And instead it's done as like, great, we're gonna do this, and now we do this, and now we do that, and now we're done, hooray. And you don't get the like catharsis. That's a good word, Gable. Catharsis.
What is catharsis?
Catharsis is when you it's like a release of emotional energy. So when you watch a thing, the best thing I can think of to explain it, because it crushed you, was Big Hero 6. So in Big Hero 6, there's the moment when Baymax blasts his fist away and Baymax dies, quote unquote, and you lost your mind in the theater. The only time I've ever seen you cry from a movie. But she
credited E.T. just to clarify. She has credited E.T.
But it's
no, not Harry Potter, because I already read the books.
But Big Hero 6.
But it's like, it's essentially the it's not the emotional crescendo, it's the result of the emotional crescendo. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense for music? So it's like everything's building, and then Like that's the moment that you want, and that's the part where you're crying, or that's the part where your
a
heart feels warm,
like
or that you feel excited, or your heart's pumping.
Like a really giant build up to like the giant ending chord of the music.
But because because it's sort of like, and again, like I don't think it's specific to this. I think it's like kind of one of the problems with the genre in general is like you don't quite have that big investment, so that when you get to the end, it's like, well, that was fun. And I think that's what they are. I mean, that's what the movies were intended to be. Like they weren't intended to have much more than just like it's a rollicking good time. I'm being controversial. Look at me go.
I agree with you.
No, I think I'll give you that on this movie, because when it ends, you're kind of like, oh, it ended.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with His Girl Friday. I don't think that's true. I think you do get that.
I agree with Daddy.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't seen His Girl Friday, but don't worry, honey. We'll get there.
I agree with
no,
Daddy.
I think His Girl Friday is the best of all. Like I don't know that I've ever seen one in the genre that's better. Like I think that is easily the best and the most effective, and it's also because it's about, like, the romance is important, but it's also not all the movie is about. Like they're actually
not at all.
You know what I mean? Like they're actually doing something other than tripping over each other. They're actually trying to accomplish something. They have a goal. And so because of that, you have a plot that they're accomplishing. And when they accomplish the plot, you still get a feeling of, whereas in this, like, the plot is they want someone needs to get married.
Yeah.
And, and then they do. And what did we learn, Gable? What is a plot problem that we learned? Is if you say and then it's not a story.
It's not a story. You have to go
therefore,
or therefore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ha
ha.
Ha.
You have to make that sound too.
Yeah.
That's something in my film school that we learned in film school, is that you have to have a character who goes ha. Otherwise, you're not telling a story. Just how it is.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yep.
But I do think so. I mean, clearly this movie works. It's the performances. Like the performances are just so spot on, and the scene, like the drunken scene between or Jimmy Stewart is drunk and Cary Grant is sober, and Jimmy Stewart goes to his house, and it's just fantastic. And you can see that Cary Grant is legitimately trying not to just crack up and ruin the take, because Jimmy Stewart is just so wonderful. And I think it's a very unusual role for Jimmy Stewart at the time, to just see him so cynical and so vulnerable, which is very different from the movie he made the year before, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which we've already watched and discussed. But all of them are just spot on. And we found out that Katharine Hepburn originally wanted Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy for the movie, and they were not available.
I'm named after Clark Gable.
You are named after Clark Gable.
Anyone who knows Clark Gable should probably know that.
Although I think they would have been great too.
Mm-hmm.
I adore.
I don't know. Jimmy Stewart's hard to replace. Like everything he's in is like, even like I would say The Naked Spur, which is like a straight Western starring Jimmy Stewart, which really shouldn't work, but it works. It's really like totally buy it. Like it totally functions with him, because he's so good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's so convincing and he's so human, and like he feels every role he does, he plays so with so much humanity that kind of, whether he's, the cop in Vertigo or the like accidental hero in Liberty Valance, like you buy it all.
Yeah. And he won an Oscar for this movie.
Jimmy Stewart?
Jimmy Stewart did. Yeah, he actually won an Oscar for this movie. He felt that it was a consolation prize. Like he felt he didn't deserve it for this movie, and that he was given it because people thought he should have gotten it the year before for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But I think it's an absolutely marvelous performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best part of the movie. Easily. Like he's amazing.
Yeah, he is amazing. I love Ruth Hussey though. I think she is fantastic. And like one of the things I really do love about this movie is, you'll often in movies see women pitted against each other. And in this movie, Ruth Hussey is in love with Jimmy Stewart and is in a relationship with him. And he, becomes completely infatuated with Katharine Hepburn. And Ruth Hussey has the presence of mind to just know that, oh God, he's just going off the deep end for today and it'll be fine. And that she doesn't, she gets a little bit ruffled, but at the end of the day, like, doesn't lose her cool and is actually really supportive of Katharine Hepburn, as is Katharine Hepburn's mother. And I think that's really nice, that it's all the men that like put her on a pedestal and yet try to tear her down at the same time. Like her father, who has the whole speech about the reason why he has been dating the dancer is because Katharine Hepburn didn't show him enough affection as a daughter, which might be the most ridiculous speech in film history, even more so than Bill Pullman's Independence Day. So either that or it's a cautionary tale, Gable, to show your father affection. Otherwise, he might cheat on me later on, apparently.
Get it together, kid. What else did you want to know, Gable?
Like I said, this was a 2-part question.
Okay. Oh, sorry. What was the second part?
What year did this movie come out? So that's not the question, but what year did this movie come out?
It came out in 1940.
Mama, do you know what people thought of the movie when it came out?
Oh, I think it was a hit.
Yeah.
No, it was a huge hit. Yeah, okay. Again, so as we kind of discussed, earlier, that it had reestablished Katharine Hepburn's career as a viable film star. So it was it was nominated for many Oscars. It won. Jimmy Stewart won. It also won for best screenplay. I think David Ogden Stewart won. Katharine Hepburn was nominated and she didn't win. And it was also nominated for best picture and a bunch of other things. Like the costumes are beautiful. The set design in this film is gorgeous, which I'm guessing why you asked where they filmed it. Because the house and the set design is beautiful, except that weird hat that she wears when they're at the librry.
It's a library hat.
I've never seen anybody at the library wearing a hat like that.
You don't know about library hats? It's a New England thing.
I never worked in a New England library.
Yeah, that's what we do. When you're on the East Coast, you just put on your library hat and call it a day.
This is my very last question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more geared towards Daddy, because I know that you really, 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 really like this movie, Mama.
Okay.
Daddy.
Yeah.
If you could change anything about this movie, what would you change about it? Because I know, Mama, you love it, so I don't think you'd change anything besides that weird hat. Is there something?
The weird hat.
I would change the weird hat.
Yeah.
I really like the weird hat.
I think I already said it. Like, I think that you need, like, the movie has. It's sort of hard to split it, because the movie has very low stakes, right? Like the stakes of the movie, meaning like what's at threat in the movie is like not particularly big. And it's even like, if everything were to go horribly wrong, the worst thing that would happen is she marries a boring rich guy and it gets covered in a magazine. Like that's sort of like worst case scenario.
It's not very bad.
Right. But so that's kind of one of the things. But what also has happened, and your mom will agree about sort of the downside of it, is that movies have since the 40s and kind of post World War II, everything has gotten progressively bigger and bigger and bigger until now movies are all about the fate of the universe, like literally. And it's hard to find things that aren't. And even like as a writer, it's hard to sell things that aren't, like people, because when you're selling things, everybody wants them to be somehow applicable to, like, how is it Marvel? Like, how are you writing the Avengers? And so it's sort of nice that it's small scale. So it's a little bit like you'd break it if you tried to change too much of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I don't know, I guess just because of the last few years that we've had is here, in our lives, is just seeing this film about these people of such like extreme privilege. Like, I don't know that I found myself caring about them as much, because they just have everything. Like
they're rich snobs.
They're rich snobs. They are. And that was, this was during, we're still in the Depression when this movie is made. And so, movies were escapism, and they, movies would often like poke fun at wealthy high society people, which this one, does to an extent. So you do see like these upper crust people in films of this time period. which I always enjoyed. And now that I'm older, and again, just like what has happened to just our country, and just because we have this huge wealth gap, I find it way less charming. And so I think watching this movie, I actually, I still love it because the performances, my God, because I just love the actors of that time period. But I don't think I didn't like it as much as I did when I, was first watching this movie 20 years ago. And this was a movie I think I watched quite a few times back in the day.
I don't know. I think even back then it was a cartoon, though. It's not like it was representing what life was like for anybody, because
it's so over the top.
Well, it's so yeah, but it's also not the life of the Rockefellers, right? Like, it's not insane rich, right? It's not like the families who kept their money after the Depression, who were making at the time hundreds of millions, which now would be billions, which is what happened now.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different, it's like this weird sort of like fictional richness that I think was on purpose. Like, it's done so that they don't feel like they feel well to do. And you can ask them what they do, and you get they work with ships. You don't exactly know what their line
Importing,
of business is.
exporting.
Yes, import, export. But then it's supposed to kind of take the edge off it, so you don't feel like they're billion-dollar industrialists who are pillaging the land and destroying the common man. Instead, they're just happy, smiley, rich people who are just living their lives and playing tennis, and everything's great.
Yeah. That said, I think I did enjoy the movie a lot less, though, than I did 20 years ago because of that. I was much more aware of that. Yes, Gable.
Yes, that's all I have.
So what, Gable, would you say about showing this movie to some of your friends?
I think that kids 10 and up would understand it or like it.
Say that again?
I think that kids 10 and up would understand it or like it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what did you like about it?
The set and costumes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the performances.
That was my main thing. But yeah.
But you like
my main thing was the sets and costumes because they're awesome. But yeah.
Yeah.
Performance.
Katharine, specifically just Katharine Hepburn, or did you like the other performances?
I think everyone else also did really good, but I mainly like Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah. What did you think of Cary Grant? We've seen him in a few things now.
He did it good.
Yeah.
He's got a real future ahead of him.
You think Cary Grant might stick around for a little while?
Too long.
He did good.
No. Never have too much Cary Grant.
He did good.
He did good. And what did you think about Jimmy Stewart, compared to It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
I think, he did really good in all three of them. So
yeah, out of those three, are those the three have we watched others with him? Or are those the three we've watched?
I think that's it.
Yeah. Do you have a preference for which one of the three Jimmy Stewart movies you liked the best?
Which one I liked, or which one he did best in acting?
Oh, both. Which one did you like the best of the three?
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. And which one do you think he did the best?
It's a Wonderful Life.
He is great, and It's a
Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Oh, and we haven't talked about, so the film was directed by George Cukor, who was just a marvelous director, but he was referred to as a women's director, because actresses just adored working with him. And he was originally supposed to direct Gone with the Wind, and he and the producer David O. Selznick, Cukor was around for all of the pre-production and the casting, and then at the last minute they parted ways. And Vivien Leigh and Olivia de Havilland were so devastated that they would sneak off and go have meetings with him after filming had begun with Victor Fleming, who directed the film, because they loved him so much. And Anne Dvorak worked with him in an MGM movie in 1950, A Life of Her Own, and it is by far one of her best performances. So he was really a marvelous director, and he just got such incredible performances out of these actors.
Cool.
All right, Gable. I think we're at that point. How many of your so-called patented, they're not really patented.
They're not really patented.
Anybody could do it, but to be weird.
No, we will sue. We will sue.
How many Gable smiles on a scale of 1 to 5? There's no decimals allowed.
I just learned decimals.
Oh, so now you know what they mean when you randomly assign
So
the
you didn't
decimal
know
value?
before?
You were
Yeah,
just
no
randomly
I
saying
idea.
numbers?
did, but now we're more learning them, and now I'm learning even more.
Anyway, what is your Gable smile rating? Out of 5. 5 being best.
One being worst.
Yes.
Oh, I really want to do decimal.
Oh, honey, just do decimals because you always do anyway. I give you permission.
3.9.
What? It's a 4. You give it a 4.
Why wouldn't you just give it a 4?
I don't know.
All right, we're gonna
She
say
can't
that.
help herself.
No,
Yeah.
4. No, hold on. 4.2.
Okay, 4.2.
It sounds like you like it way more than you said you liked it. It's very strange. Very
It's
strange.
Very strange.
So our next episode, next time we're coming back, and it's Escape from L. Sorry, not Escape from LA. Sorry. Oh man, I want to do Escape from LA.
Escape from the other place.
Escape from New York.
Yes, Escape from New York.
And after that, we're doing whatever it's called.
What's the other movie we watched? I don't remember now.
Oh no, we watched The Drive-In like 2 days ago.
Oh, Grand Budapest Hotel?
Yeah.
I don't know. We already did a PT or
Wes Anderson.
We already did a Wes Anderson episode. I don't know. Do you want to talk about Grand Budapest Hotel?
We're short. You can talk about it right now if you want.
Do you want to talk about it right now?
I want to do another Wes Anderson episode because
You want it?
Daddy wants me to watch the rest of them. So
Oh, so we're gonna do like a Wes Anderson Part 2 episode?
Electric Boogaloo. She's gonna save the youth center by
Is she?
breakdancing.
Yes.
What?
Excellent.
What?
One day you'll find out, honey. When we show you Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Have you? I've never actually seen it.
Oh, I've seen
Oh,
it.
you've seen it.
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
It used to be on HBO all the time when we were kids.
I missed
All the
that.
time.
I'm older than you.
And with that, we are, I think, out of time and space.
And space?
And energy.
And energy.
What does and space mean?
I mean, you know. Gable, would you like to say goodbye?
Bye.
And with that, it is.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Thanks so much for listening.
Oh gosh.
The Little Miss Movies podcast is hosted by Christina Rice, Gable Fialkov, and me, Josh Fialkov. We're recorded, mixed, and produced in North Hollywood.